Welcome back to the Best in Horror 2020 through 2021. I'm ML Miller. While the tones couldn't be more different, here are two films that remind us that one of the most horrifying creatures in horror is the vampire. This is ML Miller Frights' Best in Horror Countdown 2020-2021. Number 18. Number 18 is My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To. It was released June 25th, 2021. It's available on demand, digital download, and Blu-ray from Dark Sky Films. It's directed and written by Jonathan Cuartas. Thomas, played by Super Dark Times' Owen Campbell, is very sick, and it's up to his brother Dwight, almost famous as Patrick Fugit, and his sister Jessie, Ingrid Sophie Schramm, to take care of him. But Thomas's condition isn't normal. He requires a large amount of blood in order to survive, and it's up to Dwight to carry the heavy burden of picking up and killing the homeless and others who won't be missed to keep Thomas's blood bank full. This proves to be way too much for Dwight, but Jessie isn't about to let Thomas wither away and will stop at nothing to provide what is necessary to keep her family together. In a word, My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To is about family.
I don't have friends. I got family.
It's about the lengths people will go to keep family together.
Family.
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 That's what I said. And stretching those bonds to the breaking point. Yes, it appears Thomas is a vampire of sorts, but My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To plays that aspect down. Thomas doesn't have fangs and can't change into night creatures. He's weak and frail and barely keeping alive. Is this because his brother and sister can't provide enough blood for him? That's unclear. All we know is that he needs blood to survive. My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To is a slow and methodical drama with horrific elements. The horror comes from the burden Dwight must shoulder and the callousness that has overwhelmed Jessie. There are murders, but it's how these murders affect the three siblings in different ways that make this film resonate exponentially the more we get to know these main characters. I haven't seen Patrick Fugit in anything in quite a while, but he's grown quite a bit over the years, and his acting has grown as well. He's the window into this bizarre situation, and the weight of it all shows on his sorrowful face, slouched posture, and slight glimmer of hope he gets when he thinks of leaving. Seeing him being pulled back into this situation is painful to watch, and Fugit really does shine the brightest of the three leads. I haven't seen Ingrid Sophie Schramm before, but apparently she's a former model. All of that glitz is scrubbed away in this bold performance as Jessie. In her mind, she has one goal: keep Thomas alive. So much so that she has almost forgotten how to be human and is much more of a killing machine than either of her brothers. Schramm is fearless here, and her power contradicts her own thin frame, as she is definitely the one wearing the pants of the family.
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 Rounding out this small cast is Owen Campbell, who really impressed me in Super Dark Times. While he spends most of his screen time mustering enough energy to get out of bed, he provides a heartbreaking performance, mostly due to how frail and reliant he is on his siblings to survive. Still, his dreams to be normal, and maybe one day leave the house, is crushing. There is violence and blood in My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To, but it resonates so much more than your typical monster movie because you get drawn into this situation and really care for the survival of these three characters. This really is a soul crusher of a movie. It's not the feel-good vamp flick of the year, but it is one of the best you're bound to see. This is the first feature film from writer-director Jonathan Cuartas, but he shows great skill in wringing painful emotion from scenes with his patient and methodical way he lets the story unfold. I wouldn't recommend My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To anyone who is depressed at the moment, but if you're looking for some deep and heavy horror, this is it. It painstakingly depicts vampirism as an allegory for the monumental burden of caring for a sick person, and how easily that can shatter the core of family.
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 Yes, Vin. Family. For a bonus review, let's take a flight through the Blood Red Skies. Blood Red Sky was released June 23rd, 2021. It's available streaming on Netflix. It's directed by Peter Thorwarth and written by Peter Thorwarth and Stefan Holtz. Nadja, played by Perry Baumeister, and her son Elias, played by Carl Anton Koch, plan on taking an overnight flight across the Atlantic Ocean to New York, where Nadja can take part in a procedure involving the purification of her blood system from an unknown disease. Unfortunately, this flight happens to be hijacked by a group of highly organized terrorists, led by Berg, played by Dominic Purcell. What Berg and his crew of baddies don't know is that Nadja is actually a vampire, and when the plane is diverted, the night flight is bound for daylight, and Nadja is not cool with that. While one can easily dismiss this film as I did earlier and call it Vampires on a Plane, it's much more like Die Hard on a plane with a vampire. Much like Die Hard, our hero Nadja is separated from the rest of the hostages and attempting to take out the terrorists one by one. Also, much like Die Hard, the stakes are higher because one of the hostages is someone Nadja cares for. So for a short while, things get pretty familiar as Nadja bares her fangs and claws on the terrorists, popping out of the dark and evading capture. Soon, though, the film becomes much more like a zombie flick, as Nadja's bite is highly contagious, changing those terrorists she's taken out into vampires themselves, and soon the plane is riddled with vamps. Vamps who don't have the same conscience to take out the bad guys and spare the hostages, including her son, Elias. In order to morph from one type of film into another, Blood Red Sky extends its runtime to a little over 2 hours, which I think is the biggest mistake for most Netflix movies. I don't know if there's some kind of magic money number that is reached by stretching films to this length, but the runtime is often the detriment of many a Netflix film, at least the ones that I've seen. While there is plenty to do in Blood Red Sky, I felt that runtime lagging the story down numerous times. There are plenty of extended scenes of vamps hissing and snarling at one another that could have been trimmed and snipped, as well as some lengthy setups that really could have made this film more sleek and watchable. Like an overlong flight, I started getting antsy around the hour-and-a-half mark and just wanted to set the plane down and forget about it. That's not to say that Blood Red Sky was bad. The acting is solid. Perry Baumeister has a mysterious, exotic feel to her even before she vamps out. And when she does bare tooth, man, is she a ferocious predator. Baumeister goes full-on savage, making animalistic moves, all twitchy and rodent-like. Her physical performance is definitely something that stands out and deserves recognition. Her various foes do their job as bad guys. Dominic Purcell is okay as the terrorist leader, but honestly, he looks rather bored to be there. He's played this character before. He's even played a vampire before in Blade 3, so none of this is especially a stretch for him. Alexander Scheer is a lot of fun as an especially bloodthirsty terrorist, but he isn't really given a reason why he's such a psychopath. He just enjoys killing people, and enjoys it all the more once he's turned fangy. Still, Scheer brings a little more flair to the bad guys than Purcell does. Things really do get bloody savage in the latter portion of Blood Red Sky. The vampires are played much more monstrous and animalistic than your usual romanticized versions. There's a nice inner conflict in Nadja's character as she doesn't want to go full-on vampire, knowing that her son Elias is on board. This struggle is communicated very well, even though Nadja is simply screaming and hissing for the latter half of the film, another testament to her skill as an actress. Still, there's a ton of time spent with vampires hissing, screaming, screeching, and howling at one another. It's almost to the point of parody after a while. This again goes back to my criticism that some of the carnage could have been edited down for a stronger effect. But you're not likely to find another vampire film that wallows in the blood and dives into the carnage as effectively as Blood Red Sky does. So while overlong, Blood Red Sky does deliver the savage vampires that only the Blade films have hinted at. There's a compelling story set against a classic action movie template. It's a strong film if you have the stamina for it. Sloshing around in all of that blood and gore is a compelling story, brought to life by strong acting. So if you're looking for a solid mesh of action, horror, and drama, Blood Red Sky is it, even though there are parts that get a bit long in the tooth. Come back tomorrow for the next installment to the Best in Horror Countdown 2021. If you hit all the pertinent bells and whistles down below, you're sure never to miss it. See you then. You're doomed.
you're meant to be. Stuck inside your reality. You're